Okay, so welcome to our next training. This will be the training for office nurses today. So I am not going to go through all of the basics that we went through in the first two trainings. If you would like to review how to log in, some of the basics of the chart, those recordings will be available on our website and you're welcome to view them. I'm also happy to go through them at any time. But for the sake of time today, we're not going to go through all of those details. Okay, so for office nurse, a few things that are really important are having your clinical inbox set to the right place and with the right settings in order to receive the right labs. So if you have not yet been office nurse before, then you're going to go to the plus sign up here in your clinical inbox. This is just the screen you would log into right away. So you click here on your clinical inbox and you're going to want to select everyone under staff and then also everyone under practice roles. So I do not have them all selected right now, and that's because I don't want the patient information to show up in the recording. So I only have the ones selected today to be able to access the patient test labs. So once you have all of those selected, as the providers go through, then they'll be able to input different labs, point of care tests, the different, the pap smear, UA, they'll input these things and they'll either appear under orders, prescription authorizations, or under labs and imaging. Again, if you're viewing this online, you'll be able to click on the written directions to be able to follow along if you want, or that link will be available on each desktop. And as I said in an earlier session, I'm going to teach the standardized way that I do it. The office nurse is one position where there's a few different ways to do it. And some people have found different ways to get the same end product. As long as you have the same end, that you have, your lab documented, you have your labels printed, and you have your lab requisition, those three things, then it doesn't matter so much of how you get there. But I'm going to teach a standardized way that you're welcome to follow. But again, if you find a way that you prefer, then you're welcome to do that instead. Okay. So for today, we're going to be working under labs and imaging, orders, prescription, auths. So under labs and imaging, the only orders that you will find under there that you'll need to fill are urinalysis, the point of care dipstick. And then your other orders will be found under orders, prescriptions, and authorizations. So for these different tests, they will automatically populate to the boxes. If they don't show up in the box, then it's oftentimes because the provider might have not clicked done in office. And so just confirm with your provider if you don't see anything there, because it might be something that needs to just be changed to in office rather than external facility. So with these orders, prescriptions, auths, I want to reassure everybody that Sister Mary Lisa has now made a list of the common orders for the providers. So if there's an order in there, then it's not so much on the office nurse to worry about, is this the right order? Of course, you're always welcome to confirm. You don't have to be afraid of, asking, is this right? But I just want to reassure you, since there has been some question of, I'm worried that this is not the right order. It is on the providers, to get the right order in. And so that's not so much a thing for the office nurse to need to worry about. Okay, so the next one is we'll do urinalysis first here. Okay, so for urinalysis, this is, again, the only one that will be found under labs and imaging. There may be other things, depending on where you're at. There may be other items that show up in both labs and imaging and under orders, prescriptions, and authorizations. But for both of these, the only thing in this area that you need to worry about is the urinalysis. If there's other, imaging tests that are in there, then the office staff will take care of that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and complete her urinalysis. So as we have been doing, you may have, the paper that you filled out exactly, all of the values already. First, as you click on it, you'll be able to see just in general an overview of what this looks like. It's the same with the lab draws. The order is always at the top. And then from there, it'll say, you know, who it's from. It'll say who it's for. As always, please check patient's name and date of birth first thing. And then from there, you might have just seen me click on the document specimen. So what I just did there was I got rid of it. I wanted the document specimen to pop up again. So if you click on the actual lab, it hides it off to the side. I'm going to click on it again and make it pop up again. Okay, so you can look at the schedule and then pop it back out again. Okay, so we've looked at the information. The provider correctly selected office, which makes it come to your clinical inbox, and then you click document specimen. So with the document specimen, because it might be in the other box. If I'm honest, I'm not sure why that's gray.
It shouldn't be.
Okay, but what's most important here is actually putting the results, because you have, you know, your specimen and the others you'll see that we will document there. For now, we're just going to go through and put in the results because that's really what you want most. So we're going to say, you know, I'll just put in a few. A couple of them are actually drop down. The others, you know, you actually put in the value, etc. So you could just go through. It's helpful if you have someone actually read you the values I found so that one person can input while the other's inputting the values. And so you just put all the values in. Move this over here. Okay. All right, so from there, we have all of the values in, and we're going to click on View Actions once we get everything in. And then, of course, you can always put in a note if there's anything else. So from View Actions, then you can click Data Entry Completed and Save. So
View Actions.
Sure. I'm going to hide actions so you can see it again. Hide View Actions is right over here. So next to the actual name of the lab at the bottom, there will always be a View Actions because there's always some kind of action that you need to take with each item. So you click on View Actions and then you're going to click Data Entry Completed. If for some reason, you know, you need to, write another action, you can always put action note at the top. Anything else here? But we did complete the UA, and so we're just going to put in the results, data entry completed, and click Save. Okay, so urinalysis is the easiest. That's why we did it first. Okay, so urinalysis, that gets rid of it from the box. So it's important that you just make sure, you know, I can still access it right here, but it's important that you make sure you input everything before you do the view actions. You'll find that you need to do more than one view action for the other labs, but for this one, just because it will get rid of it from your clinical inbox, just make sure you have everything input there. Okay, so that's the UA. That's the only one you'll deal with that's going to be found under labs and imaging. All the other ones will be found here under orders, prescriptions, and authorizations. Okay, so for and test, it looks like today we're doing a CMP, a CBC, flu shot, and then a PAP. All right, so we'll do the CMP and the CBC first. So we're going to click on the lab, and then the order, if you think of, you know, working through each lab, the order is print labels, document, lab requisition, those three things. Print labels, document, lab requisition. So the first thing we're going to do is the print the labels. So if you need more than one tube, then you're going to need more than one label. What's important to remember is that the labels themselves only have the patient's name and date of birth in the actual label. So I have a couple here printed so you can see what they look like. I'm just going to show them, you know, on the actual screen. But both the QR label, and I'll pass it around as well. The QR label, which is kind of the funky looking one, and the barcode label are both acceptable by LabCorp. So LabCorp, you know, has a scanner gun that they will just scan either the QR code or the barcode, and then it gives them the same information, the patient's name and date of birth. The patient's lab is not found in the actual code. So as I pass this around, you'll see it says, you know, a boil a test. It has A1C on here. But the tricky thing is that it does not have to be the A1C lab tube. So you can put the QR code that has written A1C on there on the lab label for even, I mean, the CMP, even if they're not being drawn from the same tube. And the reason for that is that the only information that LabCorp is taking from this is the patient's name and date of birth, because they just have the scanner gun, scan it, and it populates into their system, patient's name and date of birth. The way they get the actual labs is from the lab requisition. So you can print from CMP as many lab labels as you need, even if it doesn't include the CMP, because the only information will be the patient's name and date of birth. So I'm going to pass this around. Obviously, it's too big for a lab tube. So we have scissors on board that you'll cut it down. There is the smaller one as well. So whether it prints off the bigger label or off the smaller label, you will still be able to, you know, use it for either case. So you can pass it around. If you have any questions, let me know. But again, either of those are acceptable. So as you're just taking a look at that, I'm going to show you how you get those labels, because that's the first thing. As Star pointed out, you know, you don't want to have your labs rolling around on your desk. You want them labeled. So the first step is to print your lab labels. So to print them, if you only have one tube, if you only need one, then you're going to do single page review. If you have more than one, you're going to do multiple page review, and multiple page is really only 2 labels. And it's always review status, whether you need 1 page or you need 2 pages. So the review status allows the physician to review it before it just closes the lab. So it's best to do single page review or to do the multiple page review if you need more than one. I haven't printed on this before, so that's why it was doing that. But for the other computers, we have the label information already installed. So for this one, just know that you will click the single page review. And then from there, how the label maker is currently set up, when you click that, it will automatically print a QR code. How I'm working with Athena to get it set up is once you click that, then you need to scroll down, and it's found under with document specimen print label. So I'm going to show again how I got there. So I'm going to get out of it, make it go away, click it again, make it come back. So let's see, I need 2 labels for this patient. I'm going to click multiple pages review, and then I'm going to scroll down. And it's actually found under document specimen here. So document specimen is really the next step, but that's where the print label button is found. You click document specimen, and then you click print label. And that will give you your labels. So that's step 1 for this. So again, this is how you will do any lab, and you will find that pap smears are actually the same. How you're going to work through pap smears. They work the same as the actual blood draws, but we're going to stick with the CMP and the CBC for now. Okay, so the CMP, we went through and we printed the lab labels. Next step is document specimen. So I already clicked the document specimen so that I could see the print label. So that area showed up for me, but I'm just going to show it one more time. So I printed my labels. We're done with step 1. So now we're on to step 2, which is document specimen. So step 2, document specimen. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to click document specimen. So you're always welcome to, you know, review this information, make sure everything's correct and accurate. Billing type should always be set to practice. You shouldn't have to worry about that. And that's because all of the lab expenses are billed to us, the practice. So I'm going to click the document specimen, and that makes these other boxes appear. From here, I'm going to click, I typically do, again, blood venous, and then any specimen notes you can put, you know, if you want to put where you took it from. So we'll say left AC, and then collected by, and collection date and time are actually required by federal law, I found out. So that's very important. And I'm going to say I took it. And then date and time, we'll say 2/15 on today's date. And see, I didn't put PM, so AM automatically showed up. So I'm going to go back and put PM, or again, you could put military time and PM would automatically populate. So once I have all of that information, then there's another action to take. So as you might remember from the UA, the view actions button is down here. So the view actions button is right next to the actual lab name itself. So I'm going to click on view actions and I'm going to click submit with in-house specimen. And then I'm going to click either save or save and next. So save will just save the information. You're always safe to click save. If you want to go to the next lab, then you can click save and next, and it will automatically drop you down to the next item in your clinical inbox, whether it's your patient that you have in front of you or not. So if I had, Abuela test as my next patient or my next order here, then it would take me to her next order. But my next order is under Ann test still. So I'm just going to click save and next. Okay, and now I'm going to document the CBC because the order that I'm teaching is print your labels, document, and then lab rec. So the next order I'm going to document, because I printed enough labels, even if I was taking them from the same tube, then of course, I would only need one label. But say I'm taking them from different tubes, then I still printed, the labels under CMP, because I was saying previously was that the only information in the label is the patient's name and date of birth. So I can print a label from CMP and stick it on the CBC lab tube and be safe with that. Okay. So before I go ahead and document, because again, order is print your label, document, lab rec. Something that Star pointed out would be helpful to know is that if you need to look up a patient's actual lab, like the name of the lab, then often embedded in the actual lab name itself is a number to be able to look up on LabCorp, check with them, how it should be drawn. Does it need to be refrigerated? And any other pertinent information. And STAR also printed in front of the lab station. Just really, it's the previous lab form that has which tubes to draw for which labs is really helpful to have as a reference right there with you. But if you need to call LabCorp or look up on their website any labs, it's often embedded right in the actual name of the lab, what number that specific lab is. Okay, so now we're going to go under lab, and test her CBC. We already printed our labels, so now I'm going to go under document specimen. That is another tricky thing, is that even if you're taking multiple labs from the same tube, you still need to document each specimen separately. So you have, one tube that you're taking 3 labs from, but you still need to document each individually. So now I'm going to go under your CBC. I'm going to say blood venous, and we'll say we got it from the same place. And I did it. And under PM. Okay, and then again, there's an action to take. So I'm going to submit with in-house specimen. Since I'm here right now, I want to point out that if you could not take specimen, that is an option. We have some patients, who come in and they might be dehydrated. They might be a tough stick in general. You can document could not take specimen. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going to say with in-house specimen draw and then submit. Save. If I wanted to go directly to the flu shot, I could click save and next, but I'm going to take care of the labs before I do that. So I'm just going to click save for now. Okay, so you'll notice that as you go through and you're clicking and documenting, the labs start to group together. So they group together because it can now be printed on one lab requisition. So as you document the labs, they start to group together, and then you need to click on it again to print the lab rec. So I'm still on the previous screen since I haven't clicked over here yet. So now I'm going to click on the now grouped together labs. You can, if you need to get rid of the exclamation point, you can always just click on that. I like to get rid of it, but it still stays there if you need to click it again. Okay. So just again, how did I get here for the lab requisition page? Because they group together after I documented, now I can click on them together here in the clinical inbox. So from here, we have now printed our labels. we have documented, and this is the third step. This is printing the lab requisition form. So you can either check all or check individually. The reason you have the option to check individually versus check all is that you'll find that once we have documented the pap smear, that will also show up in this box. But you're not going to want your pap smear on your same lab requisition as your labs. So that's why you can select individually. But right now, because the only ones that I've documented are the CBC and the CMP, they're the only ones that show up here, grouped together. If I had documented the PAP at this point, as you'll see when we do document it, then it would show up here as well. So from here, I clicked on my CBC, I clicked on my CMP, or again, I could click check all because I'm printing everything here. Then you can either click print all because I'm going to print everything in this box, or if you only want to print selected, like what we'll do with the pap smear, then you would just click. So I'm going to click check off all and just click print selected. Then I can click print selected. It really does the same thing because, you know, I'm printing all and I'm printing selected for this box. The difference would be if the pap smear was in here and I wouldn't want that on my lab rec. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to click print all. Or again, I could click print selected, wouldn't matter. And from here, it shows up kind of, you know, just a preview of what you will be printing. And then it will have on there the CBC with the CMP. And we're going to print this. I want to point out at this point that the patient's signature does not have to be on there. You do not need the patient's signature in there. And also even the physician's signature does not actually have to be on there. It's not required by LabCorp. So we have our labs, and then we're going to print. This barcode, well, this is more like it's like a QR code. This matches the labels that you printed and stuck on your lab tubes. So when LabCorp sees the lab rec, where they're gonna, you know, scan the lab rec, they're gonna scan your labels and all of the information auto-populates into their computer. So it's all there for them. Something to note here is that sometimes this is all able to print on one page. Sometimes it's too big and it will print on 2 pages. It doesn't tell you right here whether or not there's a page break in here somewhere, but there might be. And so if you print a lab rec and you're like, oh my gosh, where are my labels? Or where are my labs? It might be on the back. So take a look at the back. It might be on there for you. And we've had, you know, more than one person who's had this issue. So just know that it might be on the back. Okay, so from here, we're going to click print. We're not going to click print and mark submitted and closed because that would not put it in the physician's inbox. We're just going to click print because the print button will allow it to still be sent to the physician's inbox as well. Whether submitted and closed would send it as like marked completely finished. Okay, so from here, see the labs are not there, but do not despair. They're on the next page. I'm going to scroll down to show you. So they're on the next page. Okay, so I'm going to pass around so you can actually see what, you know, one of these looks like. Just some general information, you know, for anyone who's going to be viewing this online. You'll see the client ordering information, which I'll pass this around so you can see it since it's so small. The client ordering information, the account name is to us. So it will all be billed to us. So when you go down and you see bill type, it says client bill. And so there was a concern that our patients were going to be billed because it says client bill. But I just want to reassure you that we are the client. If you go up here, it says we are the client. So we will be billed. So don't worry about that. And then it will also have, you know, the patient's general information and their code. And then again, you'll be able to confirm that your labs are on there. I'm not actually going to print it at this point, but you're welcome to take a look. So this is your lab requisition. Okay, so just to continue, as your, once you have your labels printed, you have your documents, your specimens documented, and then you have your lab requisition. You have everything you need. So now we're going to go back to the main screen, click back, and now we can get rid of it from our inbox. So to get rid of it from your inbox, we want everything to leave our inbox from this one. So I want my CBC to go away and I want my CMP to go away because I have everything. I'm going to highly suggest that you make sure you have everything before you do this next step, because I'm sure there's a way to get around it to print another lab rec, but I actually have not figured out how to print a lab rec if you do this next final action before you have it. So make sure you have your labels, you have everything documented, and you have your lab rec before this last step. Okay, so the very last step, I'm going to hide the actions again. So I clicked on my different tasks that I want to get rid of, and then I'm going to do one more view action. It's down here this time. So click view action, and then I'm going to click order submitted by paper printout. So the by paper printout is your lab requisition. And then I'm going to click save, and it's going to disappear. Okay, so it disappeared. We took care of, so far we've taken care of the CBC, the CMP, and the urine. So now we're going to do the flu shot. Before I move on, any questions on that? Those were the most difficult ones.
That one more time. I mean, the last step that you just.
The view action step?
Yes.
So, like I said, if you do that view action step, it takes it away. So I'm not able to show you again. I'll show you again once we get.
She told us.
I'll show you again once we get to the PAP, because the PAP is actually the same. We'll do the PAP next because it is the same process. So that will be good review. Okay. So again, the PAP is the same process, just like the blood. So what we're going to do first is that we're going to print our labels, then we're going to document, then we're going to do our lab work. Same thing. So first we're going to print our labels, and I only have one PAP. So I'm going to do single page review. And then once I've selected this, then I can go down, same thing. Once I click document specimen, then print label will appear. Now I'll be able to print label. So you have one done. That's your first step. Your second step is to actually document specimen. So I'm going to make this go away so you can see it again. So again, that's printing your labels. And what's surprising, but will work, is that you actually have the same label will print for your labs as it will for your PAP. So you could stick a label from the CBC on your PAP because the only information in the label is the patient's name and date of birth.
So, like,
So you'd still be safe.
if you do 3 tubes and you ended up with 4,
Then you could stick it on the PAP. Yep. Okay. So we printed our labels. All right. So step 2, we're going to document specimen. Again, it's always good to just make sure that you have, all the right information here. This is just a screening. Sister Mary Lisa ordered it. We're going to do it today. And then she correctly clicked office. So we're going to document specimen. And the specimen source is the cervix. Okay. And then, you could say, Dr. Renfer performed. It's kind of obvious, but you could always you're always welcome to put something there. And then collected by K. Renfer. And then if you know the time, and today. Okay. All right. These next boxes you'll see are all blacked out or grayed out, and that's actually how it should be. If the patient had said yes to any of these questions, then the provider could input that information. But this is not things that the office nurse needs to worry about. So there's a lot of information that could go in there. And so that's really all there is for documenting specimen for that one. So
populate from the doctor's note if they.
Yes.
Okay.
So the doctor, and it's the question was, will that automatically populate if the doctor put in? The answer is yes, it will. So you would be able to see if the doctor did put anything in there. And then the doctor could also go back later and input more information. Okay, so we documented specimen. And at this point, there is going to be an action to take. So you could technically click save now. The issue with that, and you'd be fine to do that, but the issue with that is that you need to click view actions because there's an action you need to take on this step. So there's an action, the view actions that you need to take with the documentation of labs and with lab requisition. So again, it's over here in the corner. And I'm going to click view actions and submit with in-house specimen draw. So it's the exact same as the lab, exact same. And then I'm going to click save. I could click save and next, but because I want to continue with the same one, I just click save because then it will have me stay on the next one, where save and next would take you to the next item in your box if there was one. But at this point, I want to print our lab requisition, which is step number 3. So we printed our labels, we did our lab requisition, or we did our documentation of specimen, and then now lab requisition. You can tell this is my 3rd class I'm teaching because I'm messing up my words. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to print our requisition. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click print. Yes, Martin.
Water.
I have water. I should drink some. Okay. So from here, I have exactly what I need, just the PAP, and then I'm able to print this, click print. So one thing I will point out here, again, if there wasn't enough space, it might show up on the back. It'll be the same information on the one that you passed around. And the difference would be that if I had documented the CBC and the CMP without getting rid of them from my inbox, then at this point, I would have that same screen of checking the boxes. And I would just want to select the pap smear because that's the only one I would want to print at this point. But because I already got rid of them from my inbox, I don't have that option. So again, there's more than one way to do it. I could have, documented everything and then printed all individual lab requisitions by just checking on the box next to them. But because I'm doing them, individually, then I am now able to print this without the CVC and the CMP in my box. So again, make sure you have everything you need before you get rid of it from your inbox. So all I did was click on the print button again. Okay. So we printed our lab labels, we documented, and we printed our lab rec. So now we can get rid of it from our inbox. So this is the point to pay attention. This is like, it's like in Monopoly,
That's what you wanted to know, the
yeah.
view action.
Yeah. Do not pass go. Okay. All right. So at this point, if you're all done, you have everything you need, then you can do order submitted. So the last action is just order. And then the option is with in-house specimen. This one is order submitted by paper printout. So the paper printout is your lab rec. So at this point, once I click save, it will get rid of it from my inbox. So I'm going to show that one more time because it will disappear. View actions, and then order submitted by paper printout. I'm going to click save and it's going to disappear. But the good news is that we're very diligent and we did everything we needed to. Okay. All right. So now we just have the vaccine left. So I'm going to click on the vaccine. I'm going to get rid of this by clicking on it. Okay. So now we just have the vaccine left. So Sister Mary Lisa ordered the vaccine for the patient. Once we have the barcodes implemented, you'll be able to use the scanner. But for now, we're doing everything manually for this. So you'll input the lot number, the manufacturer, and then expiration date and the site. So for this, we take from the same bottle. So as you give to your different patients, this information will remain the same. But so, I'll just put some numbers in there. And then I believe this is correct for us. Yeah. And then expiration date. Oops. Okay. Intramuscular. And then we're going to say arm, right upper. Okay. And then you check this box saying, yes, that is what I gave, the inactivated influenza vaccine given today. And complete versus partial. Partial would only be, if, for example, for a child, you're given like a half dose for something.
Would that be like if it's a naive child and you're given 2 doses, one
It could be. So the question was, would it be like for a naive child? It could be for cases like that. It could also be, I mean, we don't give COVID vaccines at this time, but for, I can't remember if it's Pfizer or Moderna. One of them is just a half dose. So that would be like a case where, you know, it could be a partial, but we did the complete. And then, of course, you're always welcome to put more information. But that should be everything for this. So again, there's always an action associated. Yes, Martin?
We will be providing more vaccines via our partnership with the county health department and continuing education for COVID-19. Just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Sure. So Martin's point was that we will, in collaboration with the local health departments, be offering more vaccines, and we will continue COVID vaccine education. Okay, so we documented that we gave the vaccine, and so now we're going to do the view actions to get rid of it from our clinical inbox, because I don't know about you all, but I love clean inbox. Okay, so I'm going to click the view actions again. I'll show you view actions down here. Click on it, click close, which is the same as administer, and then save. If for some reason, you know, you needed to unapprove it or you couldn't do it at this time, then you could click unapprove, or if you weren't able to give it, then you could click leave and administer to the Rutledge staff, and it would be there, you know, for a future time, and the staff can take care of it. But we were able to give it, so I'm going to click close and then save. Okay, so that gets rid of it from our inbox. Okay. So the one other thing I would like to show for this position, again, if you've seen, which I think all of you have been here for some of the other ones, I always like to reset by going to click a thing that. You'll notice that if you click the back button, it doesn't work the same. Sometimes it'll work for you, sometimes it won't. If I want to reset, I either click refresh, this arrow up here, or I click Athena. Athena is like always my safe bet. It gets you back to your main screen. And so from here, you can see now our orders, prescription, and auth in labs and imaging are down to 0 because we took care of everything. Okay, so that's down to 0. And then, so that is all of the basics. I'm going to show one special case of printing a label if you missed that part, but any questions on the basics of the how-to? And I don't want to call it basics because I will say office nurse is the most, it's the biggest change for our volunteers. And so I'm really grateful, you know, to our office nurses. So thank you. Any questions on this part before I show this special case of printing an extra label?
I know we haven't got to this part yet. But if somebody orders a EKG, where does that show up?
Excellent question.
We'll just, like Scarlett says, we'll worry about that another day.
Yeah. So far, since using Athena, we have not yet had spirometry or EKGs ordered. So I have not yet personally put them in. So we will cross that bridge when we come to it.
Okay, Scarlett.
Yes, Martin.
That's due to pandemic.
Yes, we are doing, in case there's any question, we are doing spirometry again. It is safe to, you know, do them again. And then and then EKGs we just haven't had since we started it. So I was just saying we haven't had an EKG ordered since we started. Did you input it? Okay, how was that done?
It's
Okay.
So it's on the imaging.
Okay.
spirometry. So when I put in the EKG, it's similar to a UA where it has the field, so it has like rate rhythm and all those things like that. But you can allow it to put in.
Okay. So for anyone listening online, it will show the EKGs and spirometry will show up under labs and imaging. And then you'll be able to input that information just like for the other point of care urinalysis. Okay. Anything else before our last step? Okay. So the last item I want to show you, and this is advanced level. So if you need to print one more label, but it's no longer in your clinical inbox, then you can go up here to patients and you're going to go down to print document barcode. Okay, So we're going to print one more extra label. So you put in the patient's name, ID, and you're going to put document class. So you're going to put lab result, or, if it's a different, so I'm going to say it's a UA, and then date and time, same thing, any other information, and then you'll be able to print. So this is if you just need to print, one more label for whatever reason. If I haven't yet figured out how to print a lab requisition, if you get rid of it from your clinical inbox. So if that's the case, my suggestion would be to use the previous lab requisitions, the manual ones, and that's always your safe bet. So you don't have to, get too worried. But of course, we're going to try to print from Athena. But if there's a case that you're like, oh no, I don't have it anymore, then you can always use the old style. We still have those on board. Okay, I've covered a lot of information. What questions do you have?
Also, if the label printer runs out of the small labels, it'll automatically default and run into the bigger ones.
Yes.
So don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
Yeah, but at least you don't have to, oh, I'm out of small labels, it's not gonna print.
Yes. So Star was pointing out that if one side of the label maker runs out of labels, it will automatically jump to the other side and start printing from there for you. And when it's out of labels, it will be blinking to let you know. So if it's out of labels, please let, Beth Ann or the site manager know that you're out of labels. And if we have them on board, we'll restock them. It's really easy to restock.
Where do you keep them on board? Right now, they're up in the attic in the back.
Okay.
Okay. So
Currently, they're up in the attic being stored.
Right.
Anything else? This is something that it looks intensive, which I get it, like, especially when you start, it is intensive. But once you have done it, I mean, I've done it many times now, so I can do it, smoothly and fairly quickly, but it takes time to learn it. So just be patient with yourself. And if you need to ask the patient, the next patient to wait, just take care of what you need to take care of. And don't worry about, asking, needing to rush to the next patient, because it takes time to learn. And so it's okay, to give yourself that time. All right. Well, as always, if you have any questions for those online, you can always reach out to us via our website or send us an email at info@smlcares.com, or ask any of us at one of the clinics, and we'll be happy to work with you. And thank you so much for your time.